This weekend, the Blancpain GT World Challenge Europe kicks off at Brands Hatch. It's a fantastic, old-school British circuit, and it always delivers great action for the GT3 field. 2 races for the GT3 cars, mandatory pit stops and driver changes, and 2 very jumbled grids after qualifying yesterday. This opening round of the Blancpain GT World Challenge Europe is part of a global series. There's the GT World Challenge running in America and in Asia as well. We've had 2 races in the States, 1 in Asia, and the European leg kicks off this weekend. 2 great motorsport brands, Mercedes and Ferrari, go head-to-head in the Blancpain GT World Challenge, and some star drivers are across the ranks as well. The likes of Raffaele Marciello heading up Mercedes, and you've got Andrea Bertolini, former FIA GT1 World Champion, representing Ferrari. It's a stellar cast for Ferrari in America as well, headed by Tony Villander. In Europe, there's Andrea Bertolini, David Perel, Renat Salikov and Louis Mcgill from across the Pro-Am and the Am Cups. And over in Asia, the Australian driver David Russell stands out as a man to watch. So across the 3 continents, a very impressive driver lineup, and Ferrari is looking strong. But so too is Mercedes. For example, in America, the British driver Ryan Dalziel is one of the point scorers. In Europe, there's Raffaele Marciello, Lukas Stolz, Thomas Neubauer and Jean-Luc Boberly, all very quick across the classes. And in Asia, the likes of Roelof Bruns, for example, and Jeffrey Lee will be scoring good points too. So Mercedes, the equal of Ferrari. A fascinating battle is in prospect, and after 3 races so far, 2 in America and 1 in Asia, it is Mercedes ahead on points. So let's have a look at the entry for the Blancpain GT World Challenge Europe for 2019. In terms of numbers on the grid, Audi is the strongest, and one of the star drivers is Dries van Thor, who went well here last year.
Last year went quite well. We had a win and unfortunately DNF, so let's try to make it 2 wins this year. It will be tough because it's a very hard field, but yeah, I think we're prepared. We had a decent weekend in Monza, so let's try to do a better job here again.
A mainstay of the Blancpain GT series has been Stefano Ortelli. He was in right from the beginning, but he did miss the opening Endurance Cup race at Monza. However, for these sprint races, these 1-hour races, he's back on the entry list for Saint-Etienne.
Blancpain GT series is the place to be, and I'm so delighted that I get a late phone call from Seb Châtel from Saint-Etienne, driving an Audi, which obviously it's one of the strongest cars here in the field. But I also know the guys, you know, Christopher Haas and Mcgill used to be my teammate the whole time, and I have a new teammate, and I'm gonna try to do my best to help him with my knowledge of the championship.
A great British brand is Aston Martin, and the R Motorsports squad has a brace of cars here at Brands Hatch. Ricky Collard moves from BMW to Aston Martin, carving a very nice career for himself as a GT driver. And Ricky is eager to do well on home soil.
So like you say, the characteristics of this circuit are quite narrow, quite undulating, quite bumpy. You know, it's going to be really difficult. You know, hopefully the home advantage for me will work quite well, especially with a British car on a British circuit. Maybe that might have an influence as well, but no, we should be in for a really good battle. And yeah, I've got a lot of supporters coming this weekend, and hopefully they can get behind me and push me.
Reigning champion Raffaele Marciello is very much the benchmark Mercedes-Benz driver. And the Italian, who always goes well around Brands Hatch, will well be on for a win here.
No, it's a really nice track. It's like an old-style track with no runoff area. It's a small North life, let's say. So I like the track where if you do mistake, you are in the wall. So this one is one of the track like this, so it's nice. It's really difficult to overtake the other cars, so if you have a good start, you have a good result during the race if you have a clean pit stop. So we have to try to start as much as the front as possible, then we can start to score some nice points for the championship.
Last year's Silver Cup champion was the German driver Nicko Bastian. He stays Mercedes mounted for ACA ASP, but now he's got a new co-driver. Thomas Neubauer will drive with him in 2019, but they should still be good for strong results.
As the champion from last year, for sure, I want to keep the trophy in my hands. I want to have it at home, and I want to give it away. And Thomas, for sure, is the right teammate for that, because I think he's competitive, like I said. And yeah, it's all about the Silver Cup for us, for sure. But also, I think this year we can also have some surprises, maybe in overall classification sometimes.
Lamborghini has a very strong lineup as well. In the Pro-Am car, number 519 is the British driver Phil Keane, a Lamborghini factory driver, and he undoubtedly is going to start a potential class winner.
Our aim is obviously, we want to do as well as we can to win, obviously, the Pro-Am class, and to be as far up in the Pro class as we can. And Hiroshi's, he's a quick bronze and a good learner, so we'll set our sights high and see how we get on.
The grid is formed and our first 1 hour race set to get underway. And the Brands Hatch Grand Prix circuit is always a great place to be for GT racing. David Addison and John Watson trackside as we look forward to the first race. John, first of all, a day late, but happy birthday for yesterday. Secondly, what are we going to look forward to in this first 60 minutes of drama?
Well, I would say, first of all, a lot less drama than we had here on Saturday when the weather was so changeable, so rapidly changeable. Look at those black clouds over Brands Hatch. Half an hour ago they weren't there, but the key is the ambient temperature is up, and importantly track temperature is up. So hopefully what we're going to see as a consequence of what took place in qualifying for both these races will be some exciting motor racing. We look forward to it.
The Brands Hatch Grand Prix circuit has changed little since it was created. The Indy circuit has that sort of kidney-shaped loop to begin with. Long, fast straight down to Hawthorne, short straight right at Westfield. Pretty bumpy section, plunge downhill, climb up again towards Sheen Curve at the end of Sector 2. And then at the start of Sector 3, the left-hander of Stirling's bringing onto the straight down to Clark Curve in the end of the lap. That corner has been catching people out, and yesterday at the end of the qualifying session for this race, Mirko Bortolotti of all people dropped it at Stirling's.
Ran a wide too early in the exit, got over the curb onto what is actually grass and just earth, and the car began that slow pendulum effect, and it just kept going and kept going. We expected Bortolotti to get it back in control, but it didn't happen, and the car reversed itself into the barrier on the left-hand side of the circuit.
Now that's the pole position car for Black Vulcan. It is the Mercedes that Luca Stolz will start, but the car alongside the Lamborghini of Mirko Bortolotti and Christian Engelhardt, and Christian Engelhardt is with our reporter Dakota Jane.
Christian, the sun is shining. You are starting in P2. Are you ready for this battle?
Yes, we're definitely ready. Had a long winter season preparing, and now it's finally the season start of the Blancpain GT X Sprint. Now European Challenge or something.
Now Brands Hatch is very difficult with all the undulations, turns and corners. How is it you're going to manage this race with all those GT cars behind you?
It's not going to be an easy race. I think the Mercedes have a really good pace here, and we start in P2. It's not an easy starting position. We try to stay there, I think. It will be difficult to gain a place, and then we try to stay with the Mercedes. And then, yeah, hopefully for a good pit stop, we'll see.
What advantage do you think your Lamborghini has over that Mercedes sitting in P1?
I don't think we have an advantage.
Oh dear. Anyway, good luck for the race. Let's see how you go. Thank you.
What's interesting, and what we didn't really find out from talking to Christian Engelhardt, is this car was the car that we were talking about just before we went to the interview that got rear end damage, and they haven't had a chance to run the car. So Mirko Bortolotti will be running this race absolutely stone cold, not knowing what the car will handle like. Will it be identical to how it was prior to the shunt, or will there be some little anomaly creeping in? Always difficult when you're in that situation.
Absolutely right. Nico Bastian there, he will line up third on the grid, the reigning Silver Cup champion, sharing now with Thomas Nobel. Quick word about pit stops as well, because if you are in the Pro-Am or the Am Cup, you have to make a pit stop of 56 seconds. But if you're in the Pro class, it's what you might call natural pit stop, as quick as you can in and out to do the driver change and the tyre change. Now let's go back down to the grid, because we've talked about Mercedes on pole position. Luca Stolz starts. Maro Engel will take over.
Maro, always a nice place to start on pole position. Now I just spoke to Christian and he said that Lamborghini sitting next to you has got no advantage over the Mercedes, so you look like you're in a pretty good spot.
Well, for sure. In terms of starting, pole position is where you always want to start, and Luca did a great job yesterday putting the car on pole and clear view, so hopefully keep the lead going through the first few corners, and that's the best possible way to start the race, but it is a long race.
Now tell us what's going to happen in Paddock Bend.
Hopefully Luca will get a good start, be in P1 and unchallenged through the first few corners, and can hopefully build a small lead. That would be our plan.
Good luck for the race, thank you.
You can tell that Maro Engel raced in Australia for a few years, can't you? He's got this amazing accent now, this sort of German-Australian hybrid, but a great driver. He's won the FIA GT World Cup twice in Macau and is instrumental in Mercedes. David Richards in the background there a moment ago, the chairman of what is now Motorsport UK, the governing body of the sport in Britain, taking a keen interest in GT racing. Now Audi, John, a new car for this year, and they outnumber everything else on the grid. So that's third row car, Kelvin van der Linde, Vincent Abril's Mercedes there. But, you know, Audi here in strong numbers, looking for good success.
Yes, I mean, it's a racetrack that traditionally has been very rewarding to the Audi, particularly the WRT Audi team. Maybe going to be slightly different here this afternoon, partly because of the qualifying for this race we're going to watch now, but then because how much the weather influenced the qualifying grid positions for the round 2.
Now, it's not just supercars on track. A lot of effort is put in by the event organisers here to attract the fans. So there's a supercar display. Lots of Lamborghinis were pouring in bright and early this morning. That's just an element of it. Lots of delectable Porsches and others. You've got a display of Marcos somewhere on the outside at Clark Curve over there. There were lots of TVRs rocking up as well. So all sorts of things to have a look at off track, as if mouth-watering GT grids weren't enough on the circuit.
Well, I walked past some of those cars and I thought, wow, where's all that money coming from? We're in a, well, I don't know what we're in. Anyway, no, it was great to see because there's so many enthusiasts who own these cars. The thing that actually was very noticeable to me was how young these people are. I mean, they must be out and shed loads of money because these are not inexpensive supercars.
Absolutely. Now, their number one, Ezequiel Perez Compact, new to WRT Audi this year. He was a bit frustrated at the end of qualifying yesterday, wasn't he?
Yeah, he wasn't particularly happy. He reckons this morning everything's back in control. We watched when he was out early in that session, had a real problem, particularly in Stirling's Bend. The car was understeer, oversteer, understeer, oversteer. He said that was wet track conditions. It wasn't so much the car or him. So he said, I'm going to send it from the 4th row of the grid. Well, let's hope he sends it cleanly.
Their number 563, the orange one, FFF racing team car of Andrea Caldarelli and Marco Mappelli. But let's have a walk up the grid. There it is, looking down from the top of the hospitality building here at Brands Hatch. And it's Luca Stolz with the blue Mercedes that starts on pole position with Mirko Bortolotti's repaired Lamborghini alongside. Nico Bastian will start in the blue Mercedes from ACA ASP on row 2 of the grid, and Andrea Caldarelli's Lamborghini on the outside of row 2. Go back to the 3rd row of the grid, and that is where you get to the first of the Audis, not from WRT this car, but the Attempto racing team. Kelvin van der Linde will start in the car that he shares with Clement Schmidt, and Vincent Abril in the ACA ASP team. Mercedes comes next. There it is, the blue and white car that he shares with Raffaele Marciello. On row 4 of the grid is the next of the Attempto Audis. Stein Scotthorst goes first, and the best placed WRT Audi is alongside in the hands of Ezequiel Perez Compact, switching from Lamborghini to Audi for this year. Row 5, it is Ricky Collard for our Motorsport in the Aston Martin, and alongside him, Simon Gachet's Santaloc Audi. Go back a row, the Australian driver, Shea Davis, racing here for the first time and sharing with GT newcomer Tom Gamble. Alongside is the second of the our Motorsport Aston Martins, that's Airo Vagno, going first aboard 62. On the 7th row, number 10, Oskar Tuniko, who was off through the gravel a couple of times yesterday, and alongside him is Timo Boguslavski's Mercedes, both in the Silver Cup. Go back a row, Charles Viet, in his first full season of GT racing, lining up for WRT alongside the Phoenix Audi in the hands, to begin with, of Kim Louis Schramm. Then, also for Phoenix, the blue Audi, Finlay Hutchison, and alongside him, GT4 graduate Stephen Pallat for Santaloc. On the next row of the grid, another of the Attempto Audis. This one is pedalled in the first stint by Milan Doccia, and alongside him is the Pro-Am Cup Ferrari that Louis Macchiels will share with Andrea Bertolini. More Pro-Am cars next. You've got the Rinaldi Ferrari of Rinat Salikov sharing with David Perel, and Phil Keen's car, but Hiroshi Hamaguchi will go first in that car. Next on the grid, Jean-Luc Bobelik, and alongside is Wolfgang Triller, Pro-Am and Am Cup respectively. And at the back of the grid, Diego Menchaca. Now, we were talking about the Lamborghini of Mirko Bortolotti having been rebuilt. This car was upside down in the gravel at Paddock yesterday. This is another one that's had a lot of work overnight.
Yeah, the Lamborghini team, they had to work very long hours, I think about midnight, 1 o'clock before they were turning up at their hotel. But the car, while it looked to be a really severe accident, it was all rear end damage. Car rotated, ended up on its roof, probably got more scuff marks than actual damage, but nonetheless unnecessary and extra amount of work for that team to prepare for this afternoon's race.
It was a strange off. The car had arrived into paddock backwards, so the spin had happened. It was going backwards in towards the barriers, and the way that the corner forms and the angle the car went off at, it just rode up the tyres and flipped over onto its roof. And of course there was a red flag. The green flag, though, is waved for the formation lap. Alain Adon, the race director, as is the tradition, stands on the track with the flag, waves them away, and the cars then now make their run around the Brands Hatch Grand Prix circuit. It's a tough one, John, but let me put you on the spot. Can we pick a winner?
I think it's very difficult, partly because the nature of the racetrack, we've seen historically that overtaking with such a competitive field of cars becomes very difficult indeed. The front two rows of the grids are going to be the rows of the grid where you'd expect most of the action to come from. That Black Falcon Mercedes, if it gets a clean run up into turn one into Paddock Hill Bend, it's going to be very difficult to beat, because two very strong drivers who have proven they know how to win a motor race. But the Lamborghini Mirko Bortolotti, I mean, such a competitive race driver, and he will be smarting from that small incident that ended up the car in the bank in the barrier. So he will want to do something, but he probably will be a little bit, I would say, hesitant, because he doesn't know yet just what this car is going to do when it's under race conditions.
We were talking yesterday about the inter-team battles at Lamborghini. Now there's Grasser Racing Team versus the Orange One FFF Racing Team. Which team will come out on top? It's the same at Mercedes, isn't it? ACA ASP versus Black Falcon, Audi, WRT, Santilok and Attempto all in the mix as well. So a great rivalry between the teams to come out on top as the best representative of that brand. So we are set to go racing. This, the first round of the Blancpain GT World Challenge Europe. It is race 1 of 2 at Brands Hatch. It is a 60-minute sprint race. Forget mini endurance. It is flat out for an hour. Driver changes, pit stops are mandatory, and it's going to be high drama around the Brands Hatch Grand Prix circuit then as the cars turn their way through Stirlings. Now they start to get themselves into that Noah's Ark 2x2 formation, ready for the start of the race. They have to be neat and tidy across the grid markings, otherwise that will be referred to the stewards. You're on board with Ezequiel Perez Companc aboard number 1 Audi. Lucas Stoltz in the blue Mercedes starts on pole. Mirko Bortolotti on the outside of row 1. Who is going to make the best start? Will it be the grunt and go Mercedes or the aero-friendly Lamborghini that will make the run in towards Paddock Hill Bend? We are about to find out as we are set to go racing. Round 1 of Blancpain GT World Challenge Europe from Brands Hatch, ready to get underway. The cars accelerate out of Clark Curve, the lights will change, the race is Paddock. He can't grab the race lead, he just hangs on the second. Can he cut across and go for the inside? There's drama off the road, 4 cars. Kim Louis Schramm is in the gravel. There on the inside line, there's a Mercedes that's come to grief. We're going to get the safety car inevitably, I'm afraid, with 2 cars in the gravel trap. But Kim Louis Schramm is off the road. There's another car involved as well, as on track and briefly off it, Lucas Stoltz leads. Second, it is Bortolotti, but I'm waiting for the balls to come and the yellow flags to fly, because we've had drama right at the very start, and the safety car is being deployed. The safety car is being deployed as the cars go onto the Grand Prix loop.
Well, there was all first 4 cars into the Paddock Hill Bend, clean and clear. There you see what's happened. 55 Audi, and well, there are 3 other cars that also, some are in that gravel on the outside of Paddock Hill Bend. Some of them may have managed to drive their way through, but 2 of them there completely beached.
So Kim Louis Schramm and Stein Schotthorst are the 2 that are off in the gravel, and that's why the safety car is out. So that's everyone going for the same bit of real estate, I fear, into a tight corner. We'll try and piece it together from the replays, but look at the damage, John. Bits of car in the gravel and 2 graunched Audis.
Well, what can you say? You know, if you're in the middle of the pack, going into Paddock Hill Bend, you can go through 2 wide, but you can't go through 4 wide. We don't know what happened. Maybe somebody went into Paddock, back end steps out, that steps the car out to the left. But clearly, you know, I'm lost for words. For once, I'm lost for words.
It's happened. We made it happen.
Yeah.
Kim Louis Schramm is going no further. That's the car that he would have shared with Frank Stippler. So there it is. You can see damage front and rear. 55. Stein Schotthorst out of the race. That Audi would have been taken over by the Australian driver Nick Foster. There is Kim Louis Schramm getting out of the car. Former German single-seater racer. The start's under investigation, but that tends to be par for the course anyway, to make sure people were complying with the way it should have been done. And Kim Louis Schramm has not had a lot of seat time today, nor has Stein Schotthorst, as the cars now come over the timing line.
I mean, the Attempto racing car was in the 4th row of the grid.
Yeah.
And there's on the line. So look, at the front, everything is fine. But look back to the middle, probably 4 or 5 rows back. Something here is about to go dramatically wrong. It's this area now on the run up into Paddock. everything is under control, turn in, everybody is fine, all of a sudden, out of camera sight, we don't get quite what actually occurred.
Timo Boguslavski in the pale blue and white Mercedes in midfield was involved in it somewhere along the line. So they turn into the corner, and Kim Louis Schramm...
Oh, yes, it happened.
Yeah, so Scott Horst gets it wrong. Others take evasive action, and Kim Louis Schramm can't.
Yeah, he was just a passenger. He was simply taking... So one car caused the problem. Two cars altogether, plus two others took the long trip round through the gravel. There's bodywork already flying.
So Compact was one that had to go through the gravel in avoidance.
Yeah, but he was so big. Compact was on the fourth row of the grid. He should have been ahead of all this.
Yeah, right. Well, he was alongside, wasn't he? It was a slow start, I'll grant you, but he should have been alongside Scott Horst. But yes, he certainly dropped back. Now this is looking from Nico Bastian's car, so he should be ahead of all the mayhem. He nearly got past Bortolotti, didn't he?
He did, but Bortolotti really closed the door aggressively just to make sure that the Mercedes Bastian wasn't going to take that second place away. And again, Bortolotti looking one way then the other, trying to put pressure onto the back of Lukas Stolz and the Mercedes, but just has to be patient, because you've got to be patient. The problem for Bortolotti is if he sits, the longer he sits behind Lukas Stolz, the less chance he's going to have of getting through. Marcus Winkelhock having a look, and there is a lot of damage to the front of that car.
That's Stephen Palette that's brought that in, so he was the other one off through the gravel, and damage as a consequence. And of course, there's not much repair time between races, so Stephen Palette, I'm afraid, is out of the race. Timo Boguslavski had a spin on the inside of the circuit, but he is still going. So it's Palette, Scott Horst and Schramm that we have lost. You know, I said at the start of this that Audi had strength in numbers. Well, it's 3 down now, I'm afraid.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that they're looking at is the bodywork is replaceable. There's lots of accessories that are hanging off the bodywork. That's it, replaceable. It's the front chassis legs that is the problem, that those get damaged. And then there's a bearing on the suspension, the mounting points for the front suspension, the steering, whatever. So that would be the immediate concern for those team guys, for Santalok to get in and have a look and see whether that car is repairable or whether there's going to be another car that will be no longer taking part.
And of course, there's not much runoff at paddock anymore. If you go wide over the curb, especially trying to take evasive action, there's no extra tarmac or grass. You're straight into the gravel. Many years ago, there was an extra wide bit of tarmac on the outside of the curbing, but that was replaced with grass and then gravel a long time ago. So if you go wide, you're ensnared almost instantly. So the team of marshals and the recovery crew try and sort out the incident, and we are behind the safety car here at Brands Hatch. All of these laps count within the hour. Lukas Stolz, Mirko Bortolotti, Nico Bastian 1, 2 and 3.
So the Yaka, number 90, is at the tail of the field. That was one of the cars that we saw going through the gravel trap at paddock.
Stein Scott Horst trudges away. Calvin van der Linde 4th, Andrea Caldarelli 5th, so he's lost a place. 6th, Shea Davis, Ricky Collard is 7th, Vincent Abril is 8th, Oscar Schulcho is 9th, and 10th, Charles Vietz. After that, Lazaro Varnier, Finley Hutchison, Louis Mackiels, who is leading in Pro-Am, Milan Doncha, Renat Salikov, who is 2nd in Pro-Am, Jean-Luc Bobelik is 16th, and then Wolfgang Triller, who is the only Am Cup entrant with Florian Scholzer 17th, Hamaguchi is 18th, and Menchaca 19th. So Perez Companc, who started 8th on the grid, is 20th. No wonder when we got a shot of Dries Van Toor on the pit wall, he looked like all his rabbits had died. Not happy at all.
No, not in the least. And I mean, I spoke to both Dries Van Toor and Perez Companc this morning, and Ezekiel said, you know, I'm up for it, I'm really going to give him one. And in this instance, it wasn't his issue, but he got involved in it. And I said, well, are you going to be like an unguided missile? And actually, Dries Van Toor thought it was very funny. He's not thinking it's very funny now.
Yes, so he's got a lot of work to do. So the cars come over the timing line, and we are still with a clear-up operation to be completed. So Lukas Stolz, the race leader, the incident at turn 1 is under investigation, but it can be very hard to apportion blame. I would have thought everyone going for the same bit of tarmac. Stolz, Bortolotti, Bastian, Nico Bastian leading in the Silver Cup, of course. Brady champion there. Van der Linde 4th, Caldarelli 5th, Shea Davis 2nd in Silver Cup, running in 6th place. So there's the undignified size of the Phoenix Audi hoiked out of the way. Phoenix is not having a good morning. Its GT4 car was crashed in the second stint of the earlier race, and it's now had a crash with its GT3 car here at Brands in GT3.
People forget when they come to Brands Hatch that it is a very unforgiving racetrack. I mean, that's what makes it such an attractive circuit, because it is ultra old school. But if you have an error, you make an error, you go off, coming out of the case of Sheen Curve in the GT4 event, or if you've just watched here in Paddock in this GT3 round, there are very few places you can get away with it.
And Ezequiel Perez Companc had to take evasive action. The positive is he's still in the race. The negative is, and you'll see it in replay now, how many places he lost. So, up the curb goes Scott Horst. He was trying to get past Kaldur, wasn't he?
There's no way he got 2 wheels over the curb. That hooked the car, and there's the impact. That's a big impact in that right front corner. So that probably is the reason why there's concern from Marcus Winkelhock when he looked at it and the car came back into the pits, whether there is sufficient damage or not.
Yeah, that was the Winkelhock car getting out of the gravel, wasn't it? Stephen Pallet's car there.
Oh, okay.
So the Attempto car of Scott Horst. Here you go again. This is down to the
number one, compact.
Yeah. So he's avoiding it all and dropping places as a result. Gets out of the gravel. So big drama as ever at Brands Hatch. Turn 1, lap 1, and we lose effectively 3 cars. 1 in the pits, 2 in the gravel. This is the view downhill, but of course now Companc has lost so many places and his tyres are covered in muck from going through the gravel bed. So that's the Stein Scott Horst car. That was the catalyst. Up the curb, spun, went off, and then all hell broke loose behind.
I mean, one would say, looking at that car, it's got more chance of being repaired and prepared for the second race later this afternoon.
So 1 more lap at least behind the safety car. And the road is pretty much clear, I would suggest. The cars are on the inside of what would be a rallycross track now, the bottom of what used to be called Tumble Downhill, the rallycross part of the circuit on the inside of Paddock Hill Bend. Christian Engelhardt there looking at the data with the Grata guys, working out whether Mirko Bortolotti is going to be able to make his move. We've lost effectively 10 minutes now of the race, haven't we?
Yes, so there's going to be another 15 minutes before pit lane is open for the mandatory pit stop for driver and tyre changes.
Drivers reporting there is debris on the road up at turn 2, and therefore can that be removed?
Yeah, I'm just looking on this on camera. You could see there was something, whether it was rubber or debris, and there was a lot of debris from the GT4 race this morning on pit straight, and one of the Mercedes ran wide coming out of clearways and came across the racetrack and scattered carbon fibre. Literally, I've never seen it. It was like an airplane accident. So that's the concern with carbon fibre. If it gets onto the racetrack, it cuts tyres down like a knife.
Absolutely. Well, the safety car is in at the end of this lap. So safety cars can breed safety cars. Hold on to your hats. Let's see what happens now. Mirko Bortolotti needs, and he knows this, to be on his toes because he's got 1 golden chance at jumping Lukas Stolz. It didn't quite happen at the start of the race. Can he do it on the restart of the race? Otherwise, that Mercedes will build a gap.
Yeah, the thing that he's got now to his advantage is he's had a number of laps, albeit behind the safe, or running at this low pace under a safety car, full course yellow. So he knows maybe more than he knew when the lights went out as to precisely what the car might do. So it's going to be his one shot, either into Paddock Hill Bend if he gets a good run, or think about it up into Druids. Thereafter, as the laps go by, it will become more and more of a challenge for Bortolotti to get past the number 4 Mercedes.
So down they come then, and it is Lukas Stolz that will lead them away on this restart. Everybody now starting to bunch up once again. It's Stolz that will control the pace as the cars accelerate away. So Lukas Stolz has got a good restart, that to jump ahead of Bortolotti. Bastian is 3rd, but Mirko Bortolotti losing out as there. Look over the timing line. Collard versus Abril for 7th place. Vincent Abril lines him up beautifully on the inside line. The gap is there, through he goes. Vincent Abril gains a place. New to Mercedes this year, but Ricky Collard fights back as they make the climb up towards Druids. Gets a face full of the back of the Mercedes, but Stolz for Black Falcon it is that leads the race.
Yeah, Ricky Collard sort of opened the door up to let the Mercedes come through, and then he decided to come back as best he could up into Druids. Didn't quite get the job done, but the number 88 Mercedes, Vincent Abril, clearly we know that car's a quick car. The Aston certainly showed good reaction in terms of coming back.
So onto the Grand Prix loop they go. This is lap 6. And the battle is on because Collard now is under increasing pressure from the Audi of Oscar Chunico, then the Colombian driver right there behind him as they turn into the right-hander of Hawthorns. And as the cars accelerate now in through the right of Westfield, Andrea Caldarelli running at the moment in 5th place. Let's see what progress can come from that. So we've got the cars into Sheen Curve, then on towards Sterling's, turn left, green flags fly, but Stolz is building this lead.
Yeah, in the meantime, you've got Vincent Abril all over the back of Shea Davis and the Audi. He'll want to clear the Audi as quickly as possible. That's the gap that's built up. So the 88 needs to make progress, Shea Davis. doing what he has to do, just driving his own race. Ricky Kaldur lining up, and you're now going to get a group of maybe 4 or 5 cars all lining up behind what is the 6th place Audi of Jay Davis.
There is a stop-go penalty for Andrea Caldarelli for causing the collision at turn 1. Andrea Caldarelli is being given a 1-minute stop-go penalty for causing the collision at turn 1, John.
Well, I wonder, was that an onboard camera on Caldarelli's car that might have picked up that incident?
Interesting, isn't it? So the stewards have had a look, and a 60-second stop-go penalty for 563 for causing a collision. Wow.
Well, you know,
Stein Scott-Horst's car forced up the curb. The stewards say Caldarelli has a case to answer, and he will answer it by stopping in the pit lane for 1 minute. The car in 5th place effectively now is written out of the result because it's going to tumble down the field.
I would like to see that footage to get a feel for what the reason this judgment has been made. Remember, it's the first lap into Paticule Bend. It is a difficult corner. You're looking out for yourself. You're not necessarily always looking out where other cars are around you. But the judgment's been made, so that 1 minute penalty for car 536. 563, not 36.
So that is going to go down like a broken lift as far as Caldarelli is concerned. He is not going to take kindly to that. He'll want to come and get the 60-second, that's the best part of a lap, penalty out of the way as quickly as comes into Clark Curve. Does he go for the pit lane now?
No.
We haven't heard him shout no over the engine though, but he will not be pleased at all, will he?
I don't know how soon he will have had the notification, whether it's done by radio or whether it'll be a visual and radio. And what sometimes happens, we've seen it in the past, is the team manager will go immediately up to the race director or the stewards and say, you know, we want to argue this before we actually take the penalty.
Team manager is Caldarelli, isn't he? Of course, he's in the car.
Somewhat difficult, actually.
Yeah, you can't do the arguing, you're quite right. So, Caldarelli has this Damocletian stop-go. Stoltz leads Bortolotti, and Bortolotti has done the fastest lap of the race. It's game on! Mercedes leads Lamborghini onto the Grand Prix loop. Stoltz is being caught by the Italian.
Catch but overtake, always the difficulty here at Brands Hatch. Wherever you are, you can catch, you could be a second a lap quicker than the lead car, whichever car that might be. But where do you find a way past?
Caldarelli's dander is up, as they say. He's just done the absolute best in the first sector, so he might not be able to win the race, but he's a very angry Italian, that's for sure, as the cars now blast up towards Sheen Curve.
Yeah, his focus clearly is on what he's doing behind the wheel, not necessarily what is being communicated from the pit lane, but this is the battle for the lead. But what's interesting is Nico Bastian is running more or less at the same pace that we're seeing from Bortolotti. So this group of cars, again, you're talking about one car holding up a lead or a group of cars. The pace of Lucas Stoltz is never something short of pretty impressive. But right now, he's all of a tenth of a second on the last lap slower than Bortolotti.
So Stoltz goes through, and the gap to the eye is up. Yeah, it is, by 2/10 there. So on that lap he gets away. Now Caldarelli has got 3 passings of the timing line. So he's had 2. He's gone over the timing line twice since that message came up on the screen. You're on board with him, and Caldarelli running at the moment in 5th place.
The reality is, once you've been advised, and we don't know at what point Caldarelli got the message, but once you've been advised, you should take that penalty at the earliest opportunity, get it over and done with, and just get on with your race. The longer you go into the race, he's in a line of cars. Effectively, he's losing time. If he were to take that penalty and get back on the track, he would get back into clear air, but he's never going to make up that deficit of a minute.
2 drivers lower down making progress. Kompang is back up to 18th. Menchaca from the back of the grid after rolling in qualifying, so he started 25th. He is up into 16th place, and of course Caldarelli is going to lose places when he serves that stop-go. Now let's have another look, if we can, at exactly what did happen. So look at the Lamborghini on the outside there, cutting across.
Oh yeah. No, that was... He came across the Audi, and there's no question about it. What's the Audi supposed to do? It is already halfway along the door. It's a left-hand drive car. I don't know what I'm not trying to defend what Caldarelli did, because there was contact, and the penalty has been, there it is, he's making the pit lane entrance to serve that penalty out. There was no malice, in my opinion, in that contact, but the outcome of it is the penalty has been awarded to Caldarelli, and he's going to sit there for 1 minute, which is an interminable length of time.
Yeah. So a decent result out of this is now effectively gone. Safety car might bring them back into the mix, but the engineers talk to Andrea Caldarelli, the man behind the wheel. The rest of the field comes pouring through, and that's going to drop him to effectively last place now.
The counterbalance to these penalties is Caldarelli was unaffected by that contact. The Audi short horse car is out of this race, and I believe it is right that if a driver has a collision with another driver, the one that is the loser shouldn't just be the loser. The perpetrator, which is Kaldur in this case, should also serve that penalty. So there's been in the past situations where drivers have caused incidents and gotten away scot-free. In this case, there's no scot-free card for Kaldur.
So there is Lukas Stoltz, who is 6/10 ahead now. Incidentally, we had drama yesterday at the end of the first flying lap of Q2 when the rain came, and that meant that we had a couple of Audis damaged, one of which is the number 2 Charles Viet car that Kaldur blasts back into the race. Well, Charles Viet's car is in 9th place. The other one that was in the accident has had to be withdrawn from today. The Stefan Rotelli, Neil Stevenart Audi had a twisted chassis, lots of damage, so that car Santalok has had to be withdrawn, and they're mowing the lawn effectively coming out of Stirling's. That was Finlay Hutchison in the Phoenix Audi, bringing all the muck onto the road. Now there, look, back into the race goes Kaldur, but that's cost him a lap.
Yes, he's been feeding back in just to the tail end of the top 5 cars. He can run now at whatever pace he can run at. He can run probably quicker than some of the cars immediately ahead of him, but he's now a lap down, and his race is in effect a done deal.
He's sort of joined in where he was, but a lap down. So here you've got, looking back from Louis Mcgill's Ferrari, and he leads Pro-Am. The opposition is there, the green Ferrari of Renat Salikov as Milan Doncic tries to get up the inside. Ferrari goes wide. Audi tries to get the run down the hill as he gone by. Mcgill's real target here is to keep that green Ferrari behind him, because that's for the class lead.
Yeah, they already got cleanly through, so now the battle for the particular class. And lights flashing, there's that a light. I'm not quite sure that was anything other than you know what me off doing that. You've thrown me back into the arms of the competitor I wanted to be ahead of.
So Bortolotti, fastest lap of the race, chasing Stoltz. Here, Salikov chasing after Louis Mcgill's, and they are nominated Ferrari point-scoring drivers within the Blancpain GT World Challenge, part of that European 4-nominated driver lineup. There is Salikov, and he's closed right up in the Rinaldi run. Ferrari onto the tail of the AF Corsa entry as they climb the hill now.
So it's all, I suppose, what we'd imagine there would be at Brand, equal distance between car. Oh, and that's Louis, what have you done? Oh. You put that right rear onto the grass, you lost the back of the car, you then overcorrected and has gone into the tire barrier. He's managed to keep the momentum going, but gradually, and that's it. Was that pressure or just a fundamental error? I would say it was a bit of both.
A bit of both, I think you might be right. And it's going to be a safety car, I would have thought, to get him out of the way. Kaldur back in and out of the car.
But there's no point running anymore. That's it. There we go. Look, he's not happy. He will want to review that footage that we have seen. He will have a different version. Whether he'll go and give that version as a driver or as the de facto team principal. So he's very unhappy indeed. And I have a certain amount of sympathy, because in that phase going into Paddock Hill Bend, he wasn't looking up the inside. He didn't expect the short horse car to be halfway alongside. When he turned across, all of a sudden he's got a car which he didn't realise was there.
And this is Mcgill's. Look, he just drifts across to the grass, doesn't he? Just gets it slightly wrong offline.
I mean, I don't understand, truthfully, whether you're focusing so much on Stirling's that you don't know where you are on the outside of the corner approaching it. But a side swipe into the tyre bales and the rubber binding that holds those tyres, probably bodywork damage, but nothing very much more. So that car can be prepared and ready for the second round later this afternoon.
So Louis Mcgill's car ends up in the gravel, and yellow flags are in sector 3, but I'm just waiting to see how that car can be retrieved. This is looking back from Mcgill, so he comes out of sheet curve, there's the wheel on the grass, tries to correct it, but he can't, and off he goes.
Yeah, immediately put the opposite lock on, the car is going to turn into the right anyway. So there was, once he had made the error, there was not going to be an awful lot of escape room for him to recover, and into the gravel, then you're just going to be carried forward into the tyre bales. There's the car now going to be removed. I think the damage on the right front isn't going to be terribly severe. It'll be repaired, I'm sure, very quickly, and the car will be prepared for the later at 4 o'clock this afternoon, or 5 o'clock. It is 10 to 5.
Well, I can't wait to hear from Andrea Kaldur once he's calmed down, because I'm sure he'll have a lot to say about that incident and the penalty, but effectively, well, they might back and chip, but better luck we'll get that from the pit lane. Indeed so, but out of the race then is 5.63, and having lost a lap.
Yeah, of course, you're not happy at the moment, just served your penalty. What exactly happened there?
Well, I think you can clearly see what happened, and a car just hit me like on my rear right at the first corner. There was honestly, I don't understand what was the room where he wanted to pass. I'm a bit shocked about the race control penalty because I don't know. I just did my line and I just feel the heat from the back, and then I heard the only thing I heard was stop and go.
And the car's obviously not got any damage to it.
Yeah, I mean the car was actually okay. Just that the tires was a little bit going down on pressure, but you can clearly see that the mark is completely on my rear tire. So yeah, I'm quite disappointed, honestly.
So do you think you could have continued?
What you mean after the penalty? Well, I don't see. It's a sprint race. I mean, probably better to save the tires for the next round because we were going on the back of the field. We were one lap down, so we didn't see the point to keep going.
One more race to go. Spirit up.
So Andrea Caldarelli gives his take on that.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. Caldarelli was on as you go into Paddock Bend, started on the left-hand side of the track. Sean Horse was on the right-hand side of the track, so clearly Caldarelli had come from left to right, which he's entitled to do. And as he pointed out, he was not aware, and the contact that occurred was on the right rear quarter of the Audi. There's the Ferrari damage. You can see maybe worse than I thought it was, actually.
Yeah, it's taking a big
so
part.
I can understand Caldarelli's, disappointment, because he thinks that he was the one that was wrong done by, not Sean Horst.
Well, he's out of the race, and it's Stoltz, Bortolotti and Bastian 1, 2 and 3. In 4th place, Kelvin van der Linde. In 5th place here, Shea Davis. Vincent Abril in the Mercedes is 6th. So this is the next battle to watch for now. Can Vincent Abril get 5th place off the Australian? Shea Davis racing here for the first time. We've seen him in Blancpain GT Series Asia, now making the move across to the European scene. Vincent Abril switching from Bentley to Mercedes, and he's got Ricky Collard switching from BMW to Aston Martin, tucked up behind him, then Tuncho, then Weerts, and the pit window is about to open.
Half a minute it'll be open, but this battle that's currently being fought over 5th place there is back to race leader. The gap when they came across the line was just under a second, so everybody will have had a couple of laps running at a slightly lower pace while the Ferrari was recovered, but not very much, it appears, that we can see from Marco Bortolotti being able to run that gap, and not even run the gap down, but actually put a challenge onto the lead Mercedes.
Well, the FFF racing team drivers that are still in the race are ready for their stints, and let's see when Lukas Stoltz pits. Does he come in early to give way to Maro Engel, or does he stay out and try and keep building this gap over Mirko Bortolotti? And then you think about the relative pace of the second stint drivers. Who is quicker, Engel or Engelhard? Because that is going to be the battle for the race lead. In fairness to Thomas Neubauer, who's not really raced at this level before, he may not be able to replicate the pace of Nico Bastian in 3rd spot.
No, I would think that Nico Bastian really, although he is a silver driver, he's way beyond that in terms of his pace. You can see Mirko Bortolotti really just threw the Lamborghini into Paddock Bend in his pursuit of the race leader to come across the line.
And there, Collard and Tunjo go through. Right, Davis, Abril and Weerts are all into the pit lane. So that's 2 Audis and 1 Mercedes.
And it's Vincent Abril will be handing over to Raffaele Marcello. There's the 5th place, or what was the 5th place Audi, right at the very end of the pit lane. So the ACA ASP Mercedes will be working already before the Audi has come to a standstill.
And there, through on the inside line, Timo Boguslavski to go 17th at the expense of Wolfgang Triller, and also going through Simon Gachet, trying to recover after his early dramas, because he got caught up in the melee at the first lap as well. Right, tyre change done, number 2 drops down, and away now blasts Christopher Mies. 87 is in for Jean-Luc Bobelink to morph into Jim Clark.
The Audi's got out, just running as they got ahead, so Mercedes didn't really benefit from that pit stop. I thought maybe because they were working sooner, they may have made that pit stop slightly more advantageous to them, but looks like what was the 5th place, the Shea Davis Audi has done well.
Yeah, both the Audis are at least 2 seconds quicker on that pit stop than the Mercedes, much quicker.
Yeah, that's WRT.
And we know they're good at stops.
So in comes the 63 Lamborghini.
Boguslavski, Gachet and Kompang are all under investigation for a yellow flag infringement. In has come 63, so Bortolotti gives way to Engelhard. Tyres go on. 2 mechanics to do all the tyres. One carries and fits, the other does the gun.
And difficulty with the left front going on.
You've got to be fit to do this. Mechanics well trained, big heavy tyres and wheels. Everything's done. Away now goes Christian Engelhardt.
Key is where will the number 4 Mercedes be? Has yet to make its pit stop. That's where it is.
Now don't forget that for the Pro Cup cars, your pit stop can be as quick as you can do it. You don't have to work to a time like Pro-Am and Am teams do. So Engelhardt goes back onto the, or goes onto the circuit, and that pit stop was 46.7 seconds. We'll have a look at the time for the current leading car, number 4 Mercedes, when that serves its mandatory stop.
Interesting, they're choosing to stay out somewhat longer than the Challenger. Is that a Mars? That looks like there's been fluid spilt in paddock bend just on that apex. There is the lead car coming in now, so they've followed in the right thing to do. If your Challenger comes in ahead of you, you come in the next lap.
And that means that Nico Bastian will inherit the race lead, and Bastian has just done an absolute best in the middle sector. He's just done the fastest lap, Nico Bastian, with the road clear ahead of him. Down the pit road comes Stoll. So 46.7 seconds, the pit stop time to try to beat here. I'll tell you what it is, because the clock is ticking away.
Maro Engel gets into the car. Lucas Stoll did what he was required to do. He maintained the lead. He gained the lead, then maintained it. There you see the 63 indeed.
So that is Engelhardt, and it's Maro Engel he will be up against. Tyres being changed on the Black Falcon Mercedes, the team run by Jean-Paul Breslin. Stoll stands beside the car, lets it go. Here comes the Lamborghini.
Luckily for the Mercedes, they're towards the tail of the pit lane, so they're going to manage to get back out on track. There's the Lamborghini coming down, so the gap net is probably about 2 seconds. The gap fractionally, in fact, in favour towards the Black Falcon Mercedes.
The pit stop time for the Mercedes, 1.5 seconds faster than the Lamborghini, so they've gained 1.5 seconds in the pits.
They certainly did. You can see it visually, and that's been confirmed on the timing and scoring.
New fastest lap of the race, Raffaele Marciello in the 88 Mercedes. Fastest lap of the race, John.
No surprise. Wait, still needing some of the cars, still another 5 minutes before there's Nicko Bastian comes in now. So still another 5 minutes of this pit lane. So the true picture of what will happen, and Nicko Bastian will stay out. No, he's not. He's in. I thought they might have kept him out as long as possible to give them, but they're not racing for victory per se. All they're racing for is to win the Silver Cup category.
So this car, Maro Engel, will go back into the race lead. So it's Engel versus Engelhardt that we now need to be looking at. There is the Lamborghini behind. So let's see what that gap is going to be like at the end of this lap. Raffaele Marciello will be in the mix as well, having done the fastest lap of the race. Nico Bastian runs away from the ACA ASP car. Jérôme Policon's team, Autosport Promotion, is the ASP bit. ACA is Jean-Luc Beaumoulin company that's invested in the team. And here come the race leaders. So now, at the end of lap number 19, we're about to see what the gap is between Maro Engel, Christian Engelhardt as they go through. But actually, they're going to be behind, are they not, the Bastian and Boguslavski car. So that has managed to do a very good pit stop indeed. Not Boguslavski, Neubauer, I should say. Number 89, Thomas Neubauer, whose pit stop was 43.2 seconds. So that's put now number 89 Mercedes into the lead of the race.
And what it's done also is put the 63 Lamborghini right up the boot lid of what had been the leading car, the number 4 Mercedes, because it's now backed up behind these cars. Looks to go down the inside. Maro Engel gets that job done to one car, this 2-car battle, and it's nothing to do with the lead of the race. So he's clear. Christian Engelhardt now is going to think, well, where am I going to find a way past without letting the number 4 gain that advantage of having relatively clear air before he's going to find his way around the sister Mercedes.
It was only 1 second between Engel and Engelhardt, Mercedes and Lamborghini, but now that this pesky Audi is in the way, the car in the hands currently number 25 of the second driver, then that gap is going to go up. It's Marcus Winkelhock that's taking it over, of course, therefore. So can Bortolotti find a way by? Winkelhock should know that he's not battling for position here.
Engelhardt finds his way by.
Sorry, correct. We've done the change. So Bortolotti looking over the
There's Mirko. No, come on. Exactly. Come on, tell him, Mirko. You tell him.
But at the moment, the Lamborghini is being delayed by a car that's
coming into the pits. But Bortolotti was so upset because he was saying, get out of the way. You've got to make the pit stop. You're destroying our race.
Simon Gachet had not pitted, apologies. So he's in now, but Bortolotti has just watched that gap go up from 1 second to 2.2.
And understandably why Bortolotti was upset, because their opportunity to win this race with that half a lap being caught behind a slower car that was basically on its way into the pit lane has effectively taken away the momentum. Now Engelhardt's got to regroup. The advantage that Engelhardt has is that he's got that little bit of clear air. He can run at his own natural pace. where now the number 4 car is caught behind the sister car, the 89, and that will be to the detriment, in my view, of Mauro Engel, unless he can make a clean pass very quickly.
Another new fastest lap of the race, Christopher Mies, but Thomas Neubauer is the race leader. That brilliant pit stop, 43.2 seconds, which is the fastest stop of the race, has put that car into the lead. Now, John made the point quite rightly, they're not racing for a win per se, they want to win the Silver Cup, but right now they're leading outright, and if they can take this, they will take it. This is an ACA ASP Mercedes, behind it is a Black Falcon Mercedes. Same brand, rival team, deadly rival teams, and then in third...
Drive-through penalty, car 1, car 25 and car 90 for improvement and the yellow flag.
So drive-through for Dries Van Thor, or it's Ezequiel Paris Contact that committed the crime. 25, Simon Gachet committed it, and number 90, which will be Timo Bogostowski, for improving lap times under yellow flag. Just to finish the point then here, they are leading the race, but you've got these two rival teams, though, the two rival Mercedes teams, both want to come out on top, and actually at the moment, Engel is not catching Neubauer for the race lead.
No, he's not. On the other hand, you could take the view that he doesn't need to win the race to get maximum points for his category, for sure. But just look at the running wide coming up out of the paddock.
That's much yellow.
I don't know, I thought I saw something on the exit, sorry, on the entry into Paddock Bend that looked like it might have been fluid. It may just have been something that was the residue from an earlier race.
62 won't restart, we understand. Aro Vainio brought it in, but it will not restart. So this car stuck in the pit lane, denying Hugo de Sadeleer a chance to go out into the race.
The irony of number 1 having a penalty is that Dries Van Voor's just set the fastest race lap. So Van Voor's pace right up there, quickest of anybody, but they've got the penalty. So on board with the number 4, chasing the 89.
Now the gap, 0.8 of a second at the start of the lap. The gap was down in sector 1, up in sector 2. Mauro Engel comes into Clark Curve. Engel from Engelhart, second and third. Neubauer leads the way. So this is the view of Mauro Engel. Ahead is Thomas Neubauer. Let's stay on board for a lap, see if this gap will close. We're starting at 0.11 of a second.
Well, you have to assume that Neubauer would be under pressure from Engel, but it isn't the case. And he's managed to consolidate. The last lap between the two drivers was 0.1 of a second to the favour of Neubauer. So that 89 ACA ASP Mercedes, for some reason, has got that fraction more pace. It's not because that Neubauer is actually a quicker driver than Mauro Engel. It's just whatever the tyre and car setup that is on that 89 Mercedes is beginning to work extremely well in these current track conditions. But out through Surtees, it's this part of the track where, if you want to put it, the experience of someone like Mauro Engel ought to have some benefit. But closing the lead cars, closing up on one of the Audis. So this is an opportunity for Mauro Engel to look forward, not just look at the number 89 ahead of him, but that car there is going to come into play.
So the back marker, Florian Scholzer, being negotiated. Job done.
Good job done, well done. Done well by both drivers, in fairness. Scholzer got out of the way and let the 89 go through. Now will it be as generous he is. He's done a good job again. So that's good use of the mirrors, considerate use of racetrack when you're not in the main race, and being aware that there are people battling for, not just for the lead, but again for two categories at the very front. So I think the gap has stretched even further. Neubauer got the advantage in that little overtake situation.
And he's extended the gap now 2 laps in a row. 0.8 became 0.11, and that's 1.8 seconds now. This is becoming tougher for Mauro Engel to bring down. And Engelhart in turn is falling away in third place. He's 0.9 of a second back. Clement Schmidt runs fourth. Tom Gamble having his first ever GT race at this level, switching from single seaters, former Ginetta Junior driver. He's in sixth place now behind Christopher Mies, so going very strongly. Marciello is 7th, Kirchhofer is 8th for Aston Martin, Rick Brokers is 9th, 10th is Fred Verviche.
So one would have thought that we would have seen Raffaele Marciello steam up through the field, because that's what he is normally seen to do. But again, it is just the function of where you are on the racetrack, the cars around you. If you can't get your own pace, your natural pace, you never find it.
So we've had Dries Van Voor serving his drive-through, and there, Mauro Engel still chasing. Now, in the first sector, he's clawed back 0.2 against Thomas Neubauer. He needs a good sequence of clear laps, doesn't he, now, without the traffic to worry about. It's Nico Bastian watching on, and he'll be pretty pleased with how things are going.
Silver Cup drivers leading pro drivers. Well, we don't often have that. We may see a stint, but not maybe a potential overall win, as the top 3 cars all come through gap between first to second is first to third 2.7 seconds. That was the last time coming across the line. Nicko crossing his fingers. All he has to worry about is winning the Silver Cup category. Winning the race is a bonus.
Thomas Nobel is in his first season the race leader of driving closed cars. He's done Formula Renault, he's had an outing or two in the European Ferrari Challenge at the start of this year, but this is a completely different environment for him.
And he's actually further extended the lead by another tenth or so of a second. The gap is up to now 3 seconds between first and third. It's almost as if, and that's maybe not the total case, but Maro Engel and Christian Engelhardt have decided we've got nothing left to challenge for the lead of this race. We're just going to take the points that we have got. Second and third is our battle. First overall, well, what a great drive by Nico Bastian and Thomas Nobel.
If Nobel can hang on to this and not put a wheel wrong, it will be very impressive because, as I say, he's just got no experience of racing at this level. Might have been good in single-seaters, admittedly, but this is a completely different ballgame. Lucas Stoltz looking at all the data and wondering what Maro Engel can do, but right now the ACA ASP Mercedes has something that the Black Falcon car, quickest in qualifying, does not.
Pace. That's what
Exactly.
it's got that little bit of extra pace. Maybe simply just a matter of which tyres they ran. Did they run new tyres? Did they have the best of their remaining tyres? Whatever. There's not a huge amount of difference in the setup of these two particular cars. Maro Engel, of the two drivers, you'd have to say, with his expertise and experience over many years, would have naturally run down the lead Mercedes, but the gap coming across the line now was 1.7, it's now down to 1.5, so it's closed up fractionally on that last lap there, just about 0.2 of a second.
Okay, now is that a blip or is that the start of a pattern? Let's see. What's going on lower down in Pro-Am is that here, David Pirelli, the South African driver, is leading the class. He's taken over from Anakov. Remember, they got the class lead when Louis Mcgill's plunged into the gravel at Stirling's. So David Pirelli, who we've seen lots of in the Endurance Cup, now coming as a nominated Ferrari point-scoring driver into Blancpain GT World Challenge Europe. Very, very handy peddler. Because he's been largely in the AM category in the past, you kind of overlook him a little bit, but David is a very, very quick driver, pretty experienced. Started racing in South Africa, took many, many years off to go and build up his business, founded a web company, and then came back into racing. But he knew that if he wanted to succeed, he needed to come and race in Europe. So he started off in Italian GT and then came into what was then the Blancpain Endurance Series and has made a very good name for himself ever since. Florian Scholz and Wolfgang Triller in this Ferrari, the sole entry in the AM Cup. Their aim is to enjoy themselves, but at the moment also keep out of the way of the gun drivers.
Yeah, and so far they've done a good job of doing that. There we go, back to the battle. The gap had been down was 1.5 seconds as they came across the line last lap. So has Maro Engel managed to drag a bit more speed out of the number 4 Black Falcon Mercedes. So leader comes across start-finish line. We'll wait to see where the second place Engel is. Was 1.5 seconds the last lap. The gap is still 1.5 seconds, and it's back to just 3.1 seconds first to third. So everything more or less equidistant, first to second, second to third.
So downhill towards Graham Hill Bend. The lead gap, 1.5 seconds again on that last lap. So if Engel is able to do anything, he's leaving it late because we've got 19 minutes of the race to go. And you've got to acknowledge this great drive so far by Thomas Nobel. Again, I'm making the point, this is a new environment for him, racing at this level, racing in this car, racing in a shared car environment. This is new. He leads the way. And, you know, the drivers he's got behind him, you've got to get up very early in the morning to put one over on.
Well, if this had been on maybe not an old school circuit, a circuit that is a lot more forgiving, then you would maybe not be overly surprised. But this is a tough racetrack. It doesn't take any prisoners whatsoever. So far, Neubauer has not put a wheel out of place at any point we've seen.
Now this is the battle going on between Jim Pla and Phil Keane. It is to be second in Pro-Am. We've seen the leader, David Pirelli. Two quick drivers here, Jim Pla versus Phil Keane. They're both doing the full season of sprint and endurance races. Jim Pla, remember, was in the wars at Malta, and Phil Keane, who's taken over from Hiroshi Hamaguchi, looking for a way by. Phil, much underrated British driver, but very, very talented, and now, thankfully, for his second season as a factory Lamborghini driver.
Yes, indeed, and you'd have thought Phil Keane, his knowledge of Brands Hatch, his years and years of experience racing both British GT now into Blancpain sprint and endurance of the European Cup, would be a relatively easy overtake. Again, the thing of racing at Brands Hatch is catching is one thing, finding a way around another car is an entirely different thing indeed.
Absolutely right, yeah. Phil Keane has done many a mile around here. Came out of single-seater racing as virtually everybody on the grid has done, I think, these days. Was a Formula Renault front runner, but has found a very, very good niche for himself in GT racing. For many years, he co-drove in British GT with John Minshaw, multiple runner-up in British GT. Now Lamborghini having picked him up at the start of last season, and he's looking for a way past Jim Clark. There's a bit of a gap on the inside down towards Clark Kerr, but he's not near enough.
No, he was never going to get that pass done. He wasn't far enough up alongside the Mercedes. What he would want to do is prepare as he exited out of Clark Kerr in through clearways. I think he could have done better on this lap up at the paddock than he's actually done, because the opportunity to pass needed to be worked out and not tried into clearways of Clark, but do it into paddock. But back again onto the rear wing of the Mercedes. So next opportunity for me would not be coming down the hill into Graham Hill Bend. You use that as preparation to make a dive or run up the inside into Surtees. Previous lap he ran wide coming out of Graham Hill Bend, which lost him the momentum. Still not really close enough to the back of the Mercedes into Surtees, but again, it's just keep applying that pressure, pushing Jimmy Pla all the way every corner around this circuit.
So we've got the lead gap coming down a little as you look at Christopher Mies, who is 5th, and Clement Schmidt up the road ahead of him is the next target. Schmidt goes wide coming out of paddock, so this is 4th and 5th. This is for Audi honours. This is the R8 Cup unofficially now, and Christopher Mies, you've got to say, ought to be able to find a way through, certainly on pace, but again you come back to width of car, width of track.
Yeah, but Christopher Mies is such a complete race driver. Not only is he fast, he is a very, very thoughtful, and he understands what overtaking is all about, putting all that pressure on Clement Schmidt. Now whether that pressure will bear any fruit or not is another matter. Clement Schmidt has just to focus on his job and make sure he doesn't put a wheel wide either on the entry, but more so on the exit of all these corners around Brands Hatch, and that will be then the end of that 5th place for Clement Schmidt. 4th place, in fact, for Clement Schmidt.
And look at this for the race lead. The gap was down by 4 tenths last time, 3 tenths in the first sector alone, another 10th in the middle sector. Maro Engel has just done the absolute best speed through the speed trap approaching Sterling's. Now we've got a race on our hands with 15 minutes to go for the race lead. Maro Engel might have taken a while to start to bring down the gap, but now he is on it. Can he get the gap down to within a second as they break the beam? Let's see. Past the pits they go. It is 7 tenths of a second.
Yeah, no, clearly Maro Engel is now running quicker. I know that this is an individual team sport, but sometimes because it's the same manufacturer that is in 1st and 2nd place. Nico Bastian, look, he's talking to the team. Go back into the AMG so what is going on? Lucas Stoltz, is there any communication between the two teams saying, look, your guy is a Silver Cup, you're going to get your maximum points whether you come 1st or 2nd. Give us the opportunity to win this race and keep the number 63 Lamborghini between us and therefore protecting. And look how far behind Christian Engelhardt has now dropped. He's fallen back considerably from the 2nd page. The battle line, well, there's almost a battle line for the lead, literally, as the number 4 closes up to the tail of 89.
So Maro Engel, number 4, the gap 7 tenths when they came across the line. At the end of that, 28 in the first sector, fractionally quicker. And now, of course, with the gap diminishing, the pressure is going to be even more so on Thomas Neubauer. The climb up the hill through Sheen Curve. Engel is not quite on the tail yet. He's not yet in a position to think about diving past Neubauer. Runs a little bit wide over the curve.
Yeah, that's the first indication from Neubauer that there is now pressure coming from Maro Engel and the number 4 Mercedes coming through Clark and into clearways. So just dropping the wheel off the exit of Sterling's. Now maybe he's beginning to react. Maybe his mirror is beginning to get the shape and the size of the number 4 Mercedes getting larger and larger.
Through paddock they go. The gap up a fraction again to 8 tenths of a second. But yes, life now is becoming a lot more difficult for Thomas Neubauer. Can he hang on for 13 more laps? There's a nervous Lucas Stoltz watching on. There's a nervous Nico Bastian looking on. The co-drivers have done what they can do. Now it is down to these drivers. Neubauer, new to Blancpain World Challenge. Maro Engel, who has raced pretty much everywhere in a GT Mercedes. He knows the cars inside out. Christopher Mies has just come into the pit lane, the WRT Audi, for an unscheduled stop, and this, in replay, is Neubauer running a bit wide at Sterling's.
Yeah, this is the lap, not the lap we're currently on, this is the previous lap. So that's the first time I've seen Neubauer do anything other than wheel perfect drive so far this afternoon. Gap up to 8 tenths, just under 9 tenths of a second. So whether Neubauer has regrouped, he's refocused, he's managed to... Whatever caused them to lose that time, we didn't see anything obvious other than that one wheel drop off at this part of the racetrack. So nothing else around the racetrack that would have indicated a sudden drop off of nearly a second or so.
Engel seems to lose out in the middle sector. He's good in the first, good in the last, but it's that middle sector where Nobel's setup seems to be better.
2/10 on that last lap, and you don't really want to lose time around. That's a part of the racetrack. It's a bonus to many of the more experienced drivers because they can use that part of the racetrack, which is not something that is a regularly used part of the Brands Hatch setup.
I mentioned incidentally Christopher Meese had pitted. He's gone blasting back out again. I think it was to change a tyre, and he's in 11th place, but he's left 11s all down the pit lane, rubber marks down the pit lane, so irate was he that he had to make another pit stop. Anyway, he is down the order, and we're looking at this inter-team battle at Mercedes. It is the ACA ASP versus Black Falcon squads. ACA ASP's Thomas Neubauer ahead of Black Falcon's Maro Engel. The gap at the start of this lap was 0.9 of a second. We're under 12 minutes to go. So the battle is on between the two of them down to Hawthorns.
So Neubauer's pulled that advantage. I mean, it's only fractional. I mean, you can probably barely see it from the cockpit of the number 4 Mercedes. As we go back to the battle of Raffaele Marcello, who is in 5th place, still chasing Clement Schmidt. So it's been, by Marcello's standards, rather a sort of a quiet afternoon here at Brands Hatch. Normally, that is the most exciting Mercedes on the racetrack, but it's not really, not seen a lot of it, to be fair. But it hasn't looked like it's really in the races in the manner we're normally accustomed to.
I think part of the problem was partly where Abril started and partly gaps opening up early on, because we know it's hard to overtake around here. Therefore, if you get stuck and others can pull away, very hard to claw back the time. But this lead gap, somewhat elasticated, it looks like it stretched out again. 9/10 it was, and now 1.3 seconds.
Yeah, I mean, I can't explain where the time went in the first place. That enabled Engel to close down to within 7/10 of a second. Now it's almost doubled to 1.3 seconds. So, hard to explain it.
So is he pushing, having a breather, just trying to preserve the tyres, or is there something more sinister? But he's wide up the curve there, bounces back onto the road.
Well, I would say it's the other way around now. It's Maro Engel who appears to be maybe struggling a little bit for grip, particularly coming down through Graham Hill Bend. You could see how much he was running wide, the car only exiting the corner at the very, very end of it. They were pumping over the bit where you rejoin as we go back to this battle for 4th place with Schmidt and Marcello. Now this is, if I was Clement Schmidt, I would get worried now, because Raffaele Marcello is getting into the zone where he will be thinking, if there isn't anywhere to pass, I might have to make a pace to pass.
So Marcello drops down towards Hawthorn. The battle for 4th then, Clement Schmidt for Attempto Racing, the leading Audi, and then Raffaele Marcello, only the 3rd of the Mercedes fleet here. So he turns into Westfield. See how bumpy that section of the circuit is.
Yeah, I mean, it's always been a bumpy corner, and does do some cars less favours than others. Schmidt running right out to the very edge, coming out of Sheen Curve. Marcello, again, you can almost sense now that Marcello knows that he's got Schmidt in his grasp. The difficulty will be, I've got this close, what can I do? Out of Clark, through clearways, up into Panicle Bend. Audi's on the throttle a bit earlier. There's no real difference in straight line performance between the Mercedes and the Audi, and the Audi just places itself precisely to prevent Marcello from making a run up into Druid. Another opportunity, but too far behind.
Up the hill they come, hard on the brakes. Marcello certainly got close enough to have a go now. 9 minutes of the race remain. But again, you come back to this problem of where can he make the pass. Clement Schmidt, less experienced a driver than Marcello, but he's not going to crack if he can avoid it. Runs wide over the curve out of Graham Hill Bend.
Yeah, it was slightly wrong in the entry into Graham Hill Bend, and it carried all the way through the exit. So again, Marcello will be looking at all these little tails, little ticks from the Audi to see, and Marcello this time runs wide on the exit of Surtees, bounces over the curve at the exit, and that again takes away a fraction of the momentum down the hill up into Hawthorn Bend. So all the work that he had done in the first third of the circuit, the first sector, has sort of been lost just by simply running the curve on the exit of Surtees.
So Marcello tries now to bring back that lost ground. Up front, the lead gap is 1.5 seconds, so Neubauer looking ever stronger up front. Clement Schmidt, though, doing a good job here, being able to keep Raffaele Marcello at bay, getting a replay of 5:19, which is Phil Keane. And what does he do at Stirling's? He runs wide. And we've got another Lamborghini that's ground to a halt coming out of Graham Hill Bend, and it's the Menchaca Taylor Proto car. So there's a car stationary coming out of Graham Hill Bend. And it could be on fire, actually. There's a lot of smoke coming out of it. There it is. Taylor Proto, the American-based British driver runs away, but this is not a good race for the Orange 1 FFF racing team, is it?
No, it is not. This really had an unfortunate start with Andrea Caldarelli with that penalty, but let's go back to this battle for 4th place. Raffaele Marcello all over the rear of the Audi, but the Audi is still not making anything that would allow Marcello to believe there's an opportunity to slip up along and alongside and ahead.
So they turn now through 30, 7 minutes and change on the clock. Lead gap up to 1.8 seconds. Now, incidentally, as Nobel continues to build this gap. So downhill they go through Hawthorne. Nose to tail they run, and again Marcello trying here to work out where if he can make a move on Schmidt, where he can do that. Clement Schmidt defending nicely for the moment as the cars sprint their way through Sheen Curve. Yellow flags in sector 1 because of this rather smouldering Lamborghini that's parked by the side of the circuit. Down towards Clearways. Schmidt was the one that ran a little bit wide there, but he got away with that as they head in towards Clark Curve this time.
So it's all Marcello work to do, and again not getting close enough on the exit of Clearways, and then the short sprint down the hill, up the hill into Paddockle Bend. Again, really very little gain coming into Paddockle Bend from the Italian chasing the German, Mercedes chasing the Audi, up the hill into Druids. Gets close, but no banana.
Indeed so. Schmidt a little bit wide though there around the corner, but even allowing for that, there's no real opportunity for Marcello to make the dive. Through they come, onto Cooper Straight, and now they're on towards Surtees. Onto the Grand Prix loop. 6 minutes to go. Race 1 of 2 here at Brands Hatch. These first Blancpain GT World Challenge Europe races. We've lost the Aston Martin of Vinio, the Ferrari of Mcgill, the Lamborghini of Caldarelli, the Audi of Scotthorst, the Audi of Schramm, the Audi of Palette, and now the Lamborghini of Taylor Proto. That's the surviving Aston Martin. Marvin Kirchhofer is in 7th place. Behind him is Frederik Vervisch, a winner here last year. But Fred Vervisch put into the Phoenix squad this season with Finlay Hutchison and currently in 8th place. This might yet change even before the end because Kirchhofer is coming under increasing pressure. Up front, the gap going up all the while between Neubauer and Engel, 2.2 seconds it has become. 5 minutes are on the clock, and you're looking back from the Aston Martin down now towards Sterling's. Through the trees, up through the gears. Through Clearways, brake hard, turn into Clark Curve, that long right that brings you out onto the pit straight. And 5 more minutes of the race to go. Fred Vervisch goes by. But is he going to get close enough to have a go at Kirchhofer? He's 4/10 of a second back. Marvin Kirchhofer, another graduate from single-seaters into GT racing, got as far as GP2 level before he made that switch. And to the inside line, Fred Vervisch, who also had a pretty decent single-seater career, raced in America, in fact, in single-seaters for a time, comes down now towards Graham Hill Bend, trying to force a mistake out of Kirchhofer. Mistake comes there none, however. Along Cooper Straight once more they come. Onto the Grand Prix loop. This, remember, is the battle for 7th and 8th places. Vervisch closing up at the bottom of Pilgrim's Drop into Hawthorne's through that right-hander. Trying to unsettle all the time, trying to distract Kirchhofer, force a mistake out of him. Out of Westfield, drop down through Dingledale, climb through Sheen Curve, and then on towards Sterling's. Ride the curves, make as much of the width of the road as you can. Meantime, Marcello is still attacking Clement Schmidt for 4th place. 3 3/4 minutes to go. Over the timing line they come. But Schmidt looking good up front as he goes by here. Uphill once more, turn into the Druids hairpin. And Clement Schmidt knows he's not going to be able to catch those ahead of him. 10 seconds up the road is Engelhardt, so now the job is to hang on to the place, get the points out of all of this. There behind is the Mercedes. Marcello sprints along Cooper Straight now, heading up towards the left-hander that loops you onto the Grand Prix section. That is the race-leading car. 3 minutes are on the clock for Thomas Neubauer. What a drive this has been. He's got into the lead on the pit stops, hung on to the lead, and despite the pressure from behind of Maro Engel, built the gap. Gap came down a bit, he's rebuilt it, and Thomas Neubauer then leads the way. That's Luca Stolz, the man that started on pole position. His car is second in the hands of Maro Engel, but try as they might, they haven't been able to do nothing about this ACA ASP car. Nico Bastien almost hidden in his jacket there, he doesn't want to see, but we're nearly done, because through with 2 more laps to run goes here number 89, the leading Mercedes. Thomas Neubauer goes through paddock, slides a little through the corner, and he's wide up the curve, and he hangs on to everything. Engel behind him, the gap 2 seconds. So as long as Thomas Neubauer does not make a mistake, he's on for the win here, no question about it. Through they turn, and Neubauer makes the run onto Cooper Straight. So they're going to win the Silver Cup. They are going to win outright as well. Onto the Grand Prix section they come. And Thomas Neubauer has done a very impressive job, no question about it. Maro Engel chasing on behind in second place. Christian Engelhardt, who we had great hopes for in the second stint, third. Maybe that car is still not quite 100% after its accident yesterday, and anything that can be done to refine it after race 1 will be done. And then this is for 4th and 5th still. Clement Schmidt ahead of Raffaele Marciello as they drop towards Hawthorns here. Marciello goes to the outside line, can't find a way through there, but he wants the undercut. Can he get up the inside? No, because Schmidt covers off the line. Clement Schmidt doing a good job, everything he needs to do. Nothing dirty about the way he's driving, it's just good defensive driving. Clement Schmidt, Porsche specialist out of the Carrera Cup Middle East. He was the champion there, and the Carrera Cup Deutschland, but right now he's got Raffaele Marciello, one of the best, certainly Mercedes GT drivers around, right up behind him as they make the run down into Clearways and Clark Curve. Marciello thinks about the inside, can't do it, goes to the outside line here, and they're being caught by Tom Gamble. Now Tom in his third GT3 race, there's the gap finally! The door is open, Clement Schmidt, he's going to get mugged, because in a straight line through and up and past him will go Raffaele Marciello. One tiny error, slightly offline, and the other Audi's going to go through as well, or is it? Tom Gamble has a look, but no, the door is closed just in the nick of time by Clement Schmidt. Tom Gamble, last year's BRDC McLaren Autosport Young Driver of the Year, he is right there on the back. It's a career change away from single-seaters. He was a race winner in British Formula 3 last year, into GT cars, and he wants another place before the very end. If Tom Gamble could be in the leading Audi at the end of his first GT race, it would be quite a thing. Marciello finally through, and he's away and gone, isn't he, up the road? Straight away, Clement Schmidt has to go defensive. The leading car, though, is on its last lap, and it's going to be a great win, this, for Nico Bastien and Thomas Neubauer. The cars come down then now into Stirling's. Tom Gamble, incidentally, running second in that Silver Cup. But into Clark Curve, it is going to be a race win for the ACA ASP Mercedes. The first Blancpain GT World Challenge Europe race is won by Thomas Neubauer and Nico Bastien. The Mercedes comes across the line to win. Second is Maro Engel with Luca Stolz, and the gap 2 seconds. A rather muted response from Luca Stolz, thinking, why did we not win that? Why did we not have the pace at the end? Christian Engelhardt and Mirko Bortolotti take third. And then for 4th place, Raffaele Marciello, ahead of Clement Schmidt, ahead of Tom Gamble in 6th. Tom Gamble will be second in the Silver Cup, along with Shea Davis. And the winning Pro-Ams are going to be David Perel and Renat Salikov. And that's the winning AM car, the AM car in fairness, Florian Scholzer and Wolfgang Triller. So drama right at the very start, and then with that safety car bunching everybody up on the restart, the gap soon opened up, it seemed, but the pace of Thomas Neubauer, very impressive indeed. I was expecting Maro Engel, even though he came out behind, to just get on with the job, reel him in and pull away, but it never happened. He didn't catch, and Neubauer did not make a mistake either. So Thomas Neubauer, a great drive, taking over from Nico Bastien, but it was that pit stop, remember, of 43.2 seconds that got the car into the lead. It might be early May here, it might be dry, but the fans are still bobble-hatted up because it's a chilly day, and they're the SRO team, organised where everyone needs to park in the Parc Fermé area. Thomas Neubauer, an excellent drive, that. Brilliant stuff. Clambers out of the car. Thomas Neubauer and Nico Bastien. Thomas is elated, as you can understand. out he gets, and Thomas Neubauer then will, in a moment, I'm sure, the French driver, be congratulated by the team. And Thomas Neubauer goes to the front of the car, points at the badge, and is over the moon. Maro Engel, though, I think will be rather concerned about that, because he couldn't have the pace. And Nicko Bastian is delighted as he leaps to embrace his co-driver. Brilliant job done by both of them. And for ACA ASP, there are more hugs. I'm trying to think whether we've actually had a Silver Cup win outright before, but if it hasn't happened, it just has. And either way, it is a win for Thomas Neubauer on his Blancpain debut. Brilliant stuff. Maro Engel goes across to congratulate him. And we'll hear from our winners very shortly. Luca Stolz is there to say well done, but as you saw, a rather muted response. P1 for Thomas Neubauer and Nicko Bastian in the ACA ASP Mercedes. It's a win in our first Blancpain GT World Challenge Europe race here at Brands Hatch. For Thomas Neubauer and Nicko Bastian, our race winners are with John Watson.
Nicko, Silver Cup winner, but you've won the race outright. Was that in the plan?
For sure not. It was not on our list, but we take it for sure. It was a mega race. The start was tight with Bortolotti, and also Luca did a good job at the start, and then we pulled the gap with 3 cars. And then we knew that we want to stay long out for the first stint, so my car was definitely better at the end of my stint than at the beginning. So I pushed like crazy. The 2 laps I had without any car in front of me, I pushed like qualifying or even more, and it paid off. We had a mega pit stop, also thanks to ACA, to the guys. They are training so much during winter time, and now we won the first GT World Challenge race in the, which is existing now since a few weeks just. And Thomas also did a mega job.
Well, you did a great job. Fantastic pit stop. Thomas, can you believe you've just won overall, not just won your class?
Well, not really for the moment, but yeah, I don't know. I'm just excited for the moment.
No, you were under pressure. Maro Engel gave you a lot of pressure midway through your stint. He closed the gap down to 3/4 of a second, but you stretched it back out again.
Yeah, I was really trying to like focus on me, on my job, and yeah, he was pushing hard. I saw the flashing lights behind me, but you know, I just kept head down and it worked well.
You know, they're doing a recast for the movie A Star Is Born. Are you up for that?
Oh yeah, I'm ready.
Good one, well done.
Thank you.
A really good drive by Thomas Neubauer, and belying his lack of experience at this level, because I keep saying it, but it's worth repetition. He did not put a wheel wrong. Brilliant job done. And the young French driver then will make his way up to the podium. Maro Engel and Luca Stolz do win the Pro Cup. Jerome Policon is there as the team principal. Nicko Bastian is required for the podium, of course, as well. So they win outright, they win the Silver Cup. The Pro Cup won by Maro Engel and Luca Stolz. And the winning Pro-Ams, David Perel and Renat Salikov, with Florian Scholzer and Wolfgang Triller taking, of course, the AM Cup honours. Now, what happened to Maro Engel? Why couldn't he catch? Well, John's about to ask him.
Luca started in pole, had the lead, but you couldn't convert it into a victory. Why?
Yeah, it was definitely a good start and then a good restart as well, and we showed great pace. We were a little bit too slow in the pit stop. We are new in the sprint, so we made just everything very safe. We lost a bit of time there, and yeah, but we take P2 any day, good points, and yeah, on to the next race.
Well, that's the key. You weren't racing, I mean, the 89 car was racing for its category, so you're still the winner of the Pro category.
Yeah, definitely. Maro tried, I think he will explain, you tried to catch him, but if you go really close to them, you lose all the aero, which is really important here in Brands Hatch, and yeah, you basically can't overtake.
Maro, you pushed and pushed, you got the gap down to 3/4 of a second, but then Thomas Neubauer was able to open it back up again.
Yeah, I mean, full credit to them, you know, I mean, they drove a great race. P2 is a strong result for us. I had a go at the beginning, saw you had some pace, so I hung back a few laps and then went again with the tires, closed the gap, but as soon as I got close enough, it just wasn't possible to get any closer with the loss of aero. And the team then gently reminded me if there wasn't a way past to take care of the tires, because we are, you know, hammering the curbs quite hard here. And punctures are a danger, so just bringing the P2 home in the end.
Well done.
So the combination of Maro Engel and Luca Stolz will go to the podium. they are pro drivers. Officially, there's no Pro Cup as such, so they will take second place points. They don't sort of win the pro class, as it were, because there are only segregated classes for the silvers, the pro-ams and the ams, so they will take second placed points. What about Christian Engelhardt and Mirko Bortolotti? Well, they're with John as well.
Maro, it was going to have to happen on the opening lap, and if it didn't, it was going to be tough.
Yeah, of course. I mean, I had a good start from P2, was on the outside. Tried to get alongside Luca, but yeah, just impossible to make the move stick. And obviously, in the middle of the first lap, there was already a safety car deployed, so there was no really chance to attack him. But still, had a good stint. We had a good pit stop and a good race. I think that the Mercedes were quicker today, and we have to be happy with P3.
Christian, when you came out in third place, did you think you have any chance in reality of catching the two Mercedes?
Yeah, I think we did the maximum today. We used 2 sets of new tires in this race, full attack, because obviously grid position for second race much worse, and we really tried everything to get in front today, but I think the Mercedes were just too quick. In the beginning of the stint, I was pushing really hard to get close, and there I had the same pace, but only for 2 laps, and then they were pulling away. So it was really difficult at the end for me then. Not so difficult race, big gap to the rear, big gap to the front, but we're happy with third. It's a good start of the season, so looking forward to the next races.
Good thinking, well done.
So our top 3 crews make their way up to the podium. Let's confirm the results then. An ACA ASP team victory. Thomas Neubauer and Nicko, the drivers, ahead of Lukas Stolz and Maro Engel. Mirko Bortolotti and Christian Engelhardt take 4th ahead of Vincent Abril and Raffaele Marciello. Right at the very end to jump ahead of the Clement Schmidt, Kelvin van der Linde, Audi, the similar car of Tom Gamble and Shea David 6th. Collard and Kirchhoff for 7th from Hutchison, Vavish, Tunjo and Brokers 9th, and Milan Doncha, Mattia Drudi rounding out the top 10. Dries Vanthoor 11th with Ezequiel Perez Compact after the drive-through. An extra pit stop also for Christopher Mies, dropping him down into 12th place, and you go further down the order and you find the hard luck stories with the Taylor Proto Lamborghini going up in smoke, the Hugo de Sandelier Aston not restarting, Louis Macchill's in the gravel, Andrea Caldarelli withdrawing after his penalty, and then Scott-Horst, Schramm and Palette, all with damage sustained at the first corner of the race. And so the teams set to work, because the second race is due underway here at just after 4:30 local time, and it's just gone 1:15 local time, so not much time for them to sort everything out, ready for race 2, but hopefully we can get the full grid back together. So where does that put us in terms of the GT World Challenge Europe points? Well, a race win for Thomas Neubauer and Nicko Bastian gives them the lead, plus a point for a class pole position ahead of Maro Engel and Lukas Stolz, who get the second place points plus 1 for a class pole. Then it's Christian Engelhardt and Mirko Bortolotti from Raffaele Marciello and Vincent Abril. Finishing order of that race is your championship order. And then, of course, there'll be the separate points tables for the Silver Cup, the Pro-Ams, and the one Am Cup car as well. Well, there, the drivers are all ready for the presentations. Mirko Bortolotti and Christian Engelhardt for 3rd place will be brought forward in a moment, along with Nicko Bastian, Thomas Neubauer, the race winners, and of course Maro Engel and Lukas Stolz. But for the 3rd place, the Lamborghini drivers make their way forward. Mirko Bortolotti and Christian Engelhardt onto the 3rd step. Lukas Stolz and Maro Engel take 2nd place. But what a result for the winners at Brands Hatch for the ACA ASP team, of which Le Patron Jérôme Policon steps forward for the team's trophy. But the drivers, Nicko Bastian and Thomas Neubauer, make their way to the top step as race winners at Brands Hatch. And the drivers on the podium, that's the time for the national anthem of the ACA ASP team.
So the
And so, for Nico Bastien and Thomas Neubauer, for ACA ASP team, the national anthem is played, and the chief executive of Motorsport Vision, the circuit owning group, Jonathan Palmer, sports car racer himself, Grand Prix driver, touring car driver of years past, 2 steps forward onto the podium to give the trophies to Christian Engelhardt and Mirko Bortolotti, to Maro Engel and to Luca Stolz, and then, of course, to the winning drivers on the top step, Nico Bastien and Thomas Neubauer. Jerome Policon will receive the team's award as well. And then for his drivers, the winning trophies go to Nico Bastien and then Thomas Neubauer. As I say, a great debut for him and a perfect second stint. Very, very impressive indeed. Thomas Neubauer, Nico Bastien, the race winners at Brands Hatch in this first Blancpain GT World Challenge Europe race. And Stefan Rattel, the founder and CEO of the SRO Motorsports Group, steps forward to give the checks to the teams that are season-long entrants across both championships, the sprint and endurance races. So 7,500, 10,000 and then 12,500 euros go the way, third, second and first. And the celebrations can't get underway just yet because, of course, there is another race still to come this afternoon here at Brands Hatch. So the overall podium almost completed, and the drivers then now will prepare for the champagne. Thomas Neubauer and Nico Bastien want to savour the moment. The slightly frustrated, to say the very least, Black Falcon drivers have gone, but Thomas Neubauer is making the most of this moment. A great debut victory for him. So as the winning drivers are set to make their way from the podium, Christian Engelhardt and Mirko Bortolotti know that they are going to be really up against it in race 2, because with the damage sustained in the first qualifying session, they will start the second race at the back of the grid because the car never got out. Of course, the damage was too great, and it will be Christian Engelhardt that starts. So he is really going to have a job on his hands to carve his way through the traffic. So we have the overall podium done. There's then the Pro-Am and the Silver Cup and the Am podiums to come, and the podium being made ready for the next group of drivers that will be brought forward in a moment. And Thomas Neubauer and Nico Bastien will be back as Silver Cup winners. And Thomas Neubauer, Nico Bastien take the category win. But for third in the Silver Cup, there is Oscar Tunjo and Rick Brokers. They will come onto the podium for that third place. Just looking at the celebrations, Nico Bastien's boundless delight as he leaps into the arms of Thomas Neubauer, and they take P1 in the race as well as the Silver Cup, but a great result for the drivers. Well, there, Oscar Tunjo, and in the green boots, Rick Brokers, Tom Gamble and Shay Davis, the Anglo-Australian pairing, for second in the silvers, and Jerome Policon comes back for yet another trophy, and so his drivers will as well, because the winners of the Silver Cup, Thomas Neubauer and Nico Bastien, step forward as the winners of the Silver Cup here at Brands Hatch. So the drivers on the podium, and again the national anthem is played for the ACA ASP team. So the drivers on the podium for this Silver Cup, whilst they are enjoying the celebrations, let's have a quick look at the highlights of race 1. It started with Luca Stolz on pole position, Mirko Bortolotti alongside. But have a look at the car that started fourth. On the outside line, Andrea Kaldur tried to cut across the front of the traffic, and the net result was that on the inside was Stein Scott-Horst. The car was knocked into a spin, others had to take evasive action, and he then got harpooned by an out-of-control Kim Louis Schramm, who I think had a tag from behind as well. He took the Perez Compang, ended up going through the gravel bed. He got back onto the road, albeit badly delayed, and the car would have a drive-through penalty as well later in the race. Kaldur had a 1-minute stop-go for his part in the incident. He eventually withdrew because he was a lap down. Louis Mcgill was leading Pro-Am, but then he had this moment at Stirling's and went off into the barriers. That was the car out of the race as we got to the pit window. The driver and tyre changes for everybody. But the best pit stop of all came not from what was leading Mercedes, but from the third place car. Nico Bastien had done a great job to put it ahead in terms of lap times. Then a very good pit stop indeed put it into the lead of the race for Thomas Neubauer. Bortolotti was frustrated by the antics of the traffic. Nico Bastien looked nervously on. Into the lead of Pro-Am came the David Perel, Renat Salikov Ferrari, as running a little bit wide at Sterling's, but maintaining the advantage was Thomas Neubauer. He accelerated clear as the race leader. Despite the best efforts of Mauro Engel, it was to no avail as the race was won by Thomas Neubauer and Nicko Bastien after a great drive here at Brands Hatch to win race 1. Nicko Bastien, Thomas Neubauer, the race winners. It's goodbye for now.